guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. Today's video is my August wrap up. It's very long overdue. I apologise, but I've been really struggling with my mental health and I've just not wanted to do anything basically. So yeah, I'm still struggling, I'm not gonna lie, but I actually for once got up, got dressed, did my face, like I put some makeup on, and I was like, right, let's film up my videos. I need to film. So firstly, sorry this is late, but it's finally here. Secondly, I'm also filming another video, which is my September TBR, because I haven't done that. So you'll be seeing both of these videos probably on the same day, just at different times. And yes, I'll be in the same clothes because I'm literally doing these videos back to back because I decided I was going to, I don't know what is going on with this little bit of hair. Yeah, it's not working. Yeah, I decided to try and film this while I'm in the mood too, because I don't know how long this mental health problem is going to last. We love mental health, don't we? But anyway, with further ado, let's get straight into my August wrap up and see what I read and my thoughts on those books. So I managed to read 22 books. I, however, did not complete my Go Fish TBR game books. I did not complete 2. There are 2 that I have not read. So I'm going to have to give myself a punishment. However, I'm not giving myself a punishment for September because I am not doing my TBR game, as you probably could have tell, because my Bookoplathon video and TBR has gone up before this. So you will know that I'm taking part in Bookoplathon, and I have enough books as it is to read for tours, and there was no way I could do Bookoplathon and my TBR or do it both together because it would just be too complicated for me. So I will be giving myself a punishment, but it won't be for September. I will be giving it to me in October because I'll be back to doing my Go Fish TBR. However, I can't speak. October is going to be spooky themed, so my prompts will be different. I won't be doing my normal prompts that I have. I'll be doing spooky-ish prompts. But yeah, so I will be giving myself a punishment, but I'm doing it in October because that's when I'm doing my game. But yeah, 22 books. A lot of them have been on my Kindle. So yeah, we had a Kindle month, and a lot of books I've read were very crime thrillers, which I haven't had a crime thriller like month like this in ages, and I'm not gonna lie, it was fab. It was fun. I think I'm not. I am and I'm not, but I like my fantasy, but I don't know. There's something about my fantasy at the moment. I don't mind it carrying on from a series because there's not much world building, but starting a series at the minute, I'm just like, ugh, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a drag. I have been reading my normal fantasy books like for my Macedon, which I'm loving, and September's TBR I have got a couple of fantasy on there, but they're more I think YA. But yeah, I've had a very crime thriller month and I'm still in my crime thriller month. I want to read crime thrillers, but we're not sure whether that's going to be happening in September because September's TBR is fun. But let's get straight into the books. I'll try and explain the book, but I don't think I can because there's loads of books of them. And if I'm going to be completely honest, some of the books I read at the beginning of August and I can't remember now. But we have one DNF for August, and that was The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. So I managed to get up to page 116. So I did do a bit. This was the book club pick for Sid Bookworms Patreon book club. It was this, and the buddy read was Plain Bad Heroines, which I did not get to at all. But I did start reading this, and it wasn't actually the sci-fi part that I didn't get. It was just slow and quite confusing what was going on, and I just was like, I can't put myself through this. So this is a DNF. I don't know whether I will pick it up later and try it again. I'm not 100% sure. This is a do I get rid of it, do I keep it and try again book, but at the moment I'm feeling a probably get rid of it because I don't honestly think I'm going to pick it up. I've done all the rest of the books in rating order, so I'll be starting with the lowest first and then the highest, which is 5 stars. I had a good month with the 5 stars, I'm not going to lie. I had some 4 4.5 stars, some 5 stars, but I had a decent month with 5 stars, which shows how good it was. So we have a mixture of 3.5 stars together. So let's start with the Kindle ones first because it's easy. So the first up is Dead to Me by Pamela Murray. This was alright, but it was quite slow. I saw where it was all going quite quickly, and I didn't like any of the characters, which when I don't like a single character, it really is a struggle for me to enjoy the book, because I want to have at least one character I'm rooting for or what, and none of them did that for me. So that was a 3 star. We have Club 27 by Martin Tracy. That was 3.5 stars. It basically is, you have it's called Club 27 for all of the celebrities who have died at the age of 27, and it sort of follows on that, but we follow a woman who is sort of a celeb and all of this. It was good. I liked the idea of it, and the writing was brilliant, but again, I wasn't overly fond of any of the characters, and there were a few times I just got a little bit lost and confused. So it was a good read, just it didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. We then had Stillwater by Amy Stewart, which again was 3.5 stars. The only reason this has not got a high rating is basically this is the second book in the series, and I did not know that, and I did not really understand the backstory of our main character. I didn't know who the other, the guy main character was, which was the PI. It's just I didn't know the backstory, so I couldn't really understand that kind of things. The actual story itself of Stillwater made sense, it was a complete different plot to the first book, but it was to do with a previous investigation these two did, and reevaluating everything. So it was sort of I think for me, if I read the first book and knew this was part of a series, if I read the first book, then I would have been fine, because it would have made sense to me. But because I didn't, and because I didn't know that it was a series, it felt really confusing. I got extremely lost, and yeah, so that is the only reason why this has got a low rating, purely because I didn't understand what was going on, because it was carrying on from a first book, and if I'm going to be totally honest, I looked back to see whether it said it was part of a series, and it didn't. So in hindsight, I don't feel that was my fault. Maybe the actual tour people should have said it was part of a series, and we could have either decided to read the first book first or what, but whatever. And then lastly on Kindle, it was The Mathmaker's Daughter by Caroline Dunford. This was a historical fiction. It has a little bit of fantasy in. I cannot fault the writing. The writing was brilliant. I could not fault the characters. I loved all of her characters. Shahara, the main character, was brilliant. I also like the sort of feminist bit that was in it, which was about map makers only are men. It's not women at all. That's a big no-no. The women are meant to be the handmaids. They're meant to be the ones who do the cooking and all that. Bringing children in, particularly boys and stuff like that. So I like the feminist side of things of it, saying why can't women be it, especially with Shahara, who really wanted to be a map maker, and she's pretty damn good one because she can draw really well and stuff like that. So I liked that. It just, I suppose for me, historical fiction, I'm hit and miss with. I like historical romance, I don't mind historical fantasy, but the actual historical fiction itself, I'm probably a bit over. I don't mind war stories, but I feel there's an actual big plot in it, and it's interesting to read. This one, it was just, it had a dystopian bit. It sort of has about this shift, which sounds to me very much like climate change and stuff like that. It was good. I just felt there was some fantasy elements in it, and I kind of feel they should have just put a full-blown fantasy element in it, and I would have loved it. But it was, I cannot fault the writing. I could not fault the plot per se. It just, for me, was slow. It felt a bit flat, and just wasn't my kind of book. But yeah, if you're not vibing with it, it's not your fault. It's not the book's fault either. It's just you, basically. But I do honestly think a lot of people would love that book, in all fairness. And then this was another book that got 3.5 stars, The Hen Party by Maria Franklin. So I didn't realise until after I finished this that I actually had read a Maria Franklin book before, which was Hit and Run. And remembering that, I'm kind of now wondering whether Maria Franklin's writing in characters wise is like that. But basically in Hit and Run, I absolutely could not stand a single character in the book, and I was so infuriated with all of them, and because of how angry I was of these characters, it took me away from the plot and the book. And I had this again with the Hen Party. So basically we follow Caitlin and her 9 hens who go to Dublin for Caitlin's hen party. She's getting married in 3 weeks to I have completely forgotten his name. I can't remember his name now. Ugh. Ben. There we are. So her husband to be is Ben. Yeah, anyway, basically, long story cut short, Caitlin is found dead, and it is clear that it is one of the 9 hens. However, the twist at the end wasn't. The twist of this book bumped it up to 3.5 stars. It was going into a 2.5, 3 star. I just did not care for the characters. I just hated them all. I thought they were horrible. I thought they were rude. I thought they were bitchy. I genuinely felt so sorry for Caitlin and hated that her character was the one who died. But I actually liked what Caitlin did, because basically, I'm going to spoil it for you. I'm going to say basically Caitlin actually arranged for a death. So she told everyone that she was in remission for cervical cancer, but actually she wasn't. She was terminal. She only had a couple of months at a push to live. And she found out that her husband to be Ben was having an affair with one of her best friends, Shelley. And Shelley was one of the main bridesmaids for the hen party. And basically she decided to frame them. So she framed them for her death. So she actually got a very close friend actually do assisted suicide, because she knew she was dying. She stopped doing treatment because she felt even worse doing treatment. And she knew full well if she died and she married him, or even if she didn't marry Ben, like, you know, he would get all her money and stuff like that, and she didn't want that. Yeah. So she decided to get a good friend of hers who has been in the been to prison and stuff like that, so she knew he could do it, to assist suicide her. So he basically gave her a drug so she didn't feel anything, and then he suffocated her. But he planted evidence that, so it was blamed for Shelley and Ben, and it ended in a way where we know that, but we don't know whether Ben and Shelley actually did get arrested for that. They got arrested and they went through the whole interview and all that, but it doesn't actually tell you whether they did actually get done for Caitlin's murder. But that twist was like amazing. But for me, it did get quite slow. Like, it was only as I got halfway through the book that things picked up. I didn't know where it was going. Like, I started getting suspicious with some people, and then I did get suspicious with Ben and Shelley, because obviously it became clear that they were having an affair. But I didn't expect that plot twist. I didn't like any of the characters, and I did get quite angry with it. And again, because I got quite angry with the characters, it took me away from the plot. But it's one of those books where I think Maria Franklin likes to write all her characters in a way where we hate them, and so we suspect them all, and then she gives you that twist at the end. So I'm kind of thinking, because I've now read 2 books with the same premise of the characters, of you're not liking them, I think that's the way she writes. And in that sense, I think if I read more books of hers, I will not be bothered by it so much. But yeah. Then we have another book which was 3.5 stars, which is Matrix but Long Roth. This was a Pride Book Tours book, because it's got a bit of sapphic relationship in here. This was just too slow. It was too religious for my liking, and I slugged it out, but in all honesty, I just didn't enjoy it. And that's not the book's fault, because the writing was amazing. It was beautifully lyrical writing. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't my kind of book. I wanted to try it out of my comfort zone, which this was, but I kind of feel like maybe I shouldn't have, because I didn't appreciate the book, because it just wasn't my thing, which is unfortunate, because the cover of this book is just beautiful. Then we're on to 4 stars and 4.5 stars. So going on to Kindle's first up is The Traitor by A.M. Lobardo. This is the 4th book of the Catora Chronicles series. I'm not going to go into it because it will be really spoilery for you, but basically it's the last of a series, but it ends in a way where it could be more. So yeah, it was good. It's not my favourite series, in all honesty. Like, you know, I've read better fantasy books, but this was easy. You know, it's easy to follow through. The magic system was quite cool. It was just at times it felt as though I did feel the last book really was like my kind of fantasy in regards to like betrayal and stuff like that. Then we are on to On the Seventh Day by Mark Wilson. This is hilarious. This is 4.5 stars. This was just hilarious. It basically is that God really does not like us humans, and he decides to wipe us all out and start again. But two boys from obviously the world basically said, look, give us 7 days to change humans' ways. And so you follow them, you follow an archangel who sort of works for God but doesn't, and it is so funny. And like, I just could not stop laughing. It was one of those books that is just so bizarre but you can't help liking. And yeah, I just had a whale of a time with that. Next, which was 4.5 stars, was Always My Forever by Tara Brent. This is a romance and I loved it. It was just the ending, and there were certain bits that I just felt a bit far-fetched about the book, but it was steamy, which I love. It was just an easy romance fly-through read for me, so couldn't fault it. Then we have The Ice Maiden by Jane Braddock, which was 4 stars. I liked this. It was very clever, but it got a bit confusing at times, and I just at times just got really lost, but the ending was fantastic, and the writing, it was basically just the narration of the main character. It was just her dialogue, her thinking things, nothing else, which at the start took a while to get into, but once you started getting into the book you didn't really notice it, and I thought that was a really clever way of doing a story as well. And then lastly, which was 4.5 stars, it was I Shot the Devil by Ruth McIver. This was brilliant. This was absolutely brilliant. The only reason it didn't get 5 stars was the ending. The ending to me felt very rushed and didn't give you much answers. Like, if you read the book and you go through the book, it's very descriptive. You feel all the emotions, you feel everything, and you're being told all of these secrets and all of these things and all these twists and turns, and then the ending just ended, and I felt, oh, like, from how the book was done, that just disappointed me, and I thought, no, we could have done with an extra 2 chapters and probably a little epilogue or something. But other than that, it was a fantastic book, very, very good, and I read it in one sitting. Like, I could not put it down. And then for 4.5 stars, we then had the physical book Between Dusk and Dawn by Ty Lee Grice, and this is a romance book, a male romance, and basically it's got a sort of a fantasy film. So you basically, it's more about soulmates. So we meet Storm and we meet Indy, and Storm has these non-stop dreams about this boy. They're obviously in a relationship together, but like, it's like, you know, in the past, like olden times and all that. And Indy constantly draws the same boy with like but different scenarios, but with this boy in. And it turns out that Storm and Indy are both dreaming and drawing each other. So Storm's dreaming of Indy, Indy's drawing Storm, and it then turns out that Storm has got these like abilities. He can heal. He's very strong and stuff like that. And Indy is very much someone who he can reassure animals and reassure people. It's very empathetic, and also he can actually absorb all of Storm's abilities too. So they're sort of interlinked together, they're soulmates, and obviously it comes clear of like what happened to them. So basically they sort of resurrected, and everyone's trying to keep them apart, but they're soulmates, so they keep like getting together. But it's also got like a little crime thriller going on in this book. It was really, really good. I got a bit confused at times, which is why it didn't get the full 5 stars, but it was a really clever way of doing a romance, in my opinion. So yeah, I really like that. And the rest of the books are all my 5 stars, so I'm gonna boss through them as quickly as I can. So the first 2 are my Kindle ones. So first is Rock My Heart by Nadia Blair, and this follows Madeline, who is the senator's daughter, and Sloane Elliott, who is like a rock star in like a really upcoming band and everything. And basically Madeline tries to spice up her relationship, so she goes and meets her boyfriend at a it's been a while. I've read this like the beginning of August, so I'm trying to remember. Yeah, she goes and surprises her boyfriend at the hotel he's staying at. But it turns out that her boyfriend wasn't there. Like, he actually had ended things that she didn't realise. Blah blah blah. So she goes to the hotel room, and she doesn't realise that the person who's staying there is Sloane Elliott, who doesn't want anyone to know it was him staying there because he actually ran away from his band and all of that. So she assumes it's her boyfriend and starts kissing and like stripping and all that. And she like, it nearly gets to like a sexual moment, and then Sloane turns the light on and was like, "Hey darling," and she freaked. And yeah, and then she ended up leaving her necklace there, and so he tries to find her and ends up finding out that she is a senator's daughter, but she actually is a big artist. Like, her main passion is drawing and stuff, and she just wants to do that. So he decides to get her to draw him for a charity event that he's doing to raise money and all that and blah blah blah. And so they do that. They obviously start liking each other. They end up sort of starts a relationship, and then the paper then comes out to say that Sloane is actually still with his ex-girlfriend, but it's all like a farce and all that. And yeah, it hits the fan. I loved it. It was really good. It was an easy, quick read. It was just, I got a bit pissed off at times with it, and I don't know, I could have done with an extra couple of chapters. Like, for me, I love it when romances have an epilogue and it's like a year later or something like that. Which, like, I would have liked that, but it doesn't matter. So that was the reason why I didn't really give it a 5 stars, but it was brilliant. Like, it was steamy. It was very steamy. Like, I liked that. And then we also had The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which I gave 5 stars. I absolutely love this. Like, don't get me wrong, it isn't the best romance I've ever read, and you know, there was some problematic bits in it. I didn't care. I loved it. It was an easy read, and I read it within about 2-3 hours. Like, it's a short book anyway, but I read it very fast. I just loved it. Like, I just loved it. And I just realised I said Rock My Heart didn't get the full 5 stars. It did get the full 5 stars. I don't know what I'm on about. I just could have done with an extra bit. Ignore me. I'm tired. My brain's everywhere. And then on to the physical books. I'm just going to breeze through them now. So I read The Cherry Tree Cafe by Heidi Swain. Love her books. This isn't my favourite of hers, I'm not going to lie. We follow Lizzie and her best friend Gemma, which is Cherry Tree Cafe, and I know about these two because of previous books I have read, and their cafe very much is like a big part of some of the stories. It was nice to like understand where Lizzie came from and how she got into Cherry Tree Cafe and all that, but I just could not stand her for a bit. Like, she was really hoping to get back with her boyfriend, even though her boyfriend wanted her to change her hair colour, make it straight, wear all this clothing that's not usually her, not do her passion, which is like craft stuff, like sewing and crochet, stuff like that. And I was like, why do you want to go back to someone who makes you into someone you're not? So that really infuriated me, but I can't fault Heidi Swain's books. Like, I do enjoy them. They're easy reads, and it is an easy 5 stars. Like, yes, this is my favourite of hers, but I still can't fault it. And then we have my read-along book, which is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas, which is book 4 of the Throne of Glass series. It's a chunker, and I can tell you now, I read this in one day. I loved it so much. I read this while we were camping, and literally I started it, like, I was halfway anyway, but I read the ending of this in one day. It's fantastic. I just love it. I just love that Eileen's been reunited with Aidan. I love that her and oh my god, I've forgotten his name. How can I forget his name? Rowan. How can I forget his name? Rowan and Eileen obviously sort of have feelings for each other, but like, yeah. And then flipping Dorian, like, what's gone on with him? Like, ugh, I honestly was like, Sarah J. Maas, do not kill Dorian, because it was getting to the stage where I genuinely thought that was what was going to happen. This is brilliant. And I think Throne of Glass is my favourite series by Sarah J. Maas. Like, it trumps ACOTAR, which is shocking. So yeah, love this, and I'm so excited to read Empire of Shadows, is it? Empire of Storms for September. Like, I know for well, as much as a chunky book, I'm going to breeze through it because I just love it so much. I read a graphic novel. This wasn't actually at all on my TBR. I just ended up reading it because I did a vlog, my camping vlog, and I thought I'd bring a graphic novel just to make it a bit easier for myself. So I read Crowded, Volume 1, Soft Apocalypse. Loved this. Absolutely love this. You basically follow, we're like in the future, and we follow a girl called Charlie who wakes up to $1 million campaign to basically kill her, to assassinate her. And so she hires Vita Slatter, who is a bodyguard. So there is an app called Reaper that basically, if you want someone dead, you will put like, I want this person dead, I will give you this much money to kill this person. And then you have Defend, which is where the bodyguards are. So if you have a hit on you, you can get a bodyguard. She gets the lowest rated one because she doesn't have much money. It's cheap. But the reason why Vita was low rated is because she's very good at her job, and some people who had a hit on them wanted to die anyway. So yeah, but it basically follows this, and she doesn't understand why she's got a hit. Like, she's not the most nicest of people, like, you can't fault that, but she doesn't understand why there's a hit. Like, you know, she's asked all these people who tried killing her, and they said, oh, it wasn't me and all that, and it turns out that it's the government has put a hit on her, but we don't know why. I love this. Like, the graphics and like the illustrations are just amazing. It was just brilliant. And it's a person of colour rep, it's also sapphic rep, and yeah, it's a series that I want to continue reading, so I definitely want to buy volume 2, and I have got volume 3 on pre-order because it's not out yet. But this was fab. Like, I was surprised at how much I loved it, but I loved it. And then probably my most favouriteest thriller going, like, I can't forget anything about this book, Staying the Dead Crows by Carrie McGillan. This was absolutely amazing. So basically we follow Maggie, who has a stalker in the woods where her and her husband and her son are staying in a cabin, but she has a choice of staying there and protecting her family from the stalker, or going back to London to support her sister Rose, because their other sister Daisy is being threatened to take life support off. And then we follow Rose and Daisy. So Rose finds a man at her younger sister's Daisy's bedside. Daisy's actually in a coma, and she went into cardiac arrest, and then she went into they did all the breathing for her. I can't remember what it was called, but they now want to take her off life support. But she meets like a random guy, and he turns out that he is a psychologist that Daisy goes and sees. And so Rose believes that Daisy tried committing suicide, and he said, no, I don't think she did. She was fine. She said that she found a way to help her be happy and stuff like that. And so it basically says, 2 strangers start the clock. It's ticking for 3 devoted sisters, and when time runs out, they won't just be fighting for each other's survival, they'll be fighting for their own. 3, 2, 1, the countdown has begun. So not only do we have that, we also follow Rose and her husband, who is not who he says he does. So they had a very, very quick meetup, got engaged within like a month, got married within like 3 months, I think. And when she meets Daisy's psychologist, he starts getting to know her and getting to know her husband, and he starts explaining some things about who her husband is, that he's a narcissist, that he's abusive, and it comes clear that Rose is in an abusive relationship, but she sort of didn't want to believe that because she's just come out of a marriage that was abusive, and she was like, oh, but no, he's not. And then as the story develops, it goes. This book had about 3 twists at the end. Like, it was so twisty, but then I will tag my vlog in with my thoughts of this. I think I did a vlog of this. I can't remember. I think I did. But let's just say this has a complete brilliant ending and is very much like what Behind Her Eyes was like. That was my favouriteest thriller of 2019-2020. I loved it, and nothing topped this. This tops it, because the ending, the twist to this book, I was like, what? It was trippy. It was amazing. I cannot fault this book. It is my favourite book of 2021 so far, and I just can't stop talking about this book. I've actually got, this is actually a series sort of, but doesn't follow on. Like, each book's a standalone, but it follows the main character, which is the mental health person who was in this book. It's like him, he's in all of the books. And I've downloaded on my Kindle the first book, and I was meaning to read it after this, but I've got loads of books. I'm going to try and squeeze it in for September. If not, I will definitely read it in October. But if you take anything from my videos, please get this book and read it. It is fantastic. Another thriller that I loved was A Familiar Sight by Anna Libuscus, who is my favourite thriller female author. This is a psychological thriller, and we basically follow Dr. Gretchen White, who has who's a sociopath, but she specialises in antisocial personality disorders and violent crimes, and she basically teams up with Detective Shaughnessy, who believes that she killed her aunt when she was a kid, but there was no evidence to show it. She ends up going on his case because a teenager called Viola Kent was accused of killing her mother. And yeah, I won't go into this, but a lot happened in this. It was very twisty-turny. I did not once know what was going to happen, which what Brianna Libuscus does. Like, she dangles things and you sort of think it's a certain person, and then you're like, oh, it's not, right at the end. I love her books. I've not hated a single one. This one felt a bit slow at the start. It did get a bit slow, and like, it was quite a lot of different characters' point of view. But once I hit like the halfway point, everything was unravelling. It was so twisty and turny, and it was definitely a psychological thriller because you're there questioning all these things. Another brilliant book by her, and another book I recommend buying. Then I read Louise Candish's book, The Heights, which was Tandem Collective read-along, and I love this book. It's my first ever Louise Candish book, and it was so interesting. And yeah, I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot of spoilers in this book, but I recommend this, and I love her writing, and I'm definitely going to be reading more by this author. I do actually own a book by her, Our House, which I'm planning to hopefully read in October. But yeah, I definitely want to read more of her work because it was just outstanding writing, and again, twisty and turny, and I loved it. And then next up is my book club pick, which is Hostage by Claire Mackintosh. Holy shit, guys. This was unexpected. Like, I've read a few Claire Mackintosh books and it's never what I expect. But this book, the ending, had 2 massive twists, and I literally was like, mouth jaw drop, for what the hell? And I'm still what the hell over it. This was fantastic. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the story, all the twists and turns, and I flew through this book. Like, it took me a couple of hours, like, and it is a chunky book. I love it, and from what I gathered by my book clubbers, a lot of them enjoyed it too. So yeah, if you haven't read it, read it. But I do think this has been going on the rounds anyway. A lot of people have started reading it, or at least own it. So if you haven't read it but you do own it, read it because it's fantastic. And then lastly, another thriller, sort of. It's more of a mystery. It's The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. So this wasn't actually on my TBRs. Originally, I had new release as a prompt card, and it was originally The Other Black Girl, and then I changed my mind. I didn't want to read that, so I put Animal because I wanted to read that. Changed my mind and decided this because I recently just got this in my Love My Read box, and it is a new release. This is more mystery than thriller, so we basically follow Hannah, who gets a weird letter from her husband Owen to say protect her, and the only person that means is his daughter, her stepdaughter Bailey. And Bailey comes back from school with a letter from her dad saying, I'm so sorry I have to do this, but please do as what Hannah says. She loves you, I love you. And in that letter there are a lot of money in this holdall, and basically at first you think Owen has run away because his workplace went under siege by the FBI for fraud, and his boss is being done for fraud, and because Owen works alongside, like, he's like a suspect. But it turns out it's not that. It actually turns out that Owen sort of went into witness protection, but he basically went into witness protection. Bailey was so little that she doesn't know anything about it. She just remembers certain little like bits and bobs. But because if he got arrested and he got all of his prints done, it would come clear who he is and all of that, and the people he is hiding from will come out and get him, or if not him, Bailey. So that's why Hannah had to protect her. So she ends up realising Owen isn't who he is, and Bailey is the key to unravel everything. So they go to Texas it's very good. Like, I didn't expect any of what happened, and I just liked, like, I can see some people would think this wasn't brilliant, but I loved it. I just could not stop reading it. I needed to know what happened. Like, I literally got interrupted in a chapter, like it was near the end of a chapter, and my dinner was ready and I just didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to eat, I just want to read this. But it's fantastic. If you're not a crime thriller fan, or you're starting into it but you don't want anything gruesome, do this one, because it does have like crime in it, but it's more mystery, it's more like secrets, betrayal, lies, stuff like that. But yeah, really love this book. I like the writing, and I hope Laura Dave writes more books, because I definitely want to read more of her books. So yeah, that's all the books I read in August. Like I said, I think I had a good reading month in regards to ratings. Obviously, like you can see, I've read a lot of thrillers more than anything. And yeah, it was just a good reading month, considering I have struggled on and off in August with my mental health. So the fact that I've managed to read 22 books is a good thing. Like, I have loads of books to read in September, and I do not know how I'm going to do that, because September's a busy month. So good luck with that, Amy. But yeah, if you've read any of these books, let me know. If you fancy reading any of the books I read and want to know more about them, again, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will see you all again soon. Take care. Bye.